In the last 24 hours, significant global events have unfolded, affecting geopolitics, economies, and security. From escalating tensions in the Middle East to critical Supreme Court decisions in the United States, the world is witnessing transformative moments. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. Recent economic indicators in the United States suggest that the economy may be slowing down. Reports of increased unemployment claims and declining consumer spending have raised alarms among economists. This shift in economic activity is attributed to various factors, including rising interest rates and inflation. The Federal Reserve is under pressure to respond appropriately to stabilize the economy. Analysts are closely monitoring these developments, as they could have far-reaching implications for domestic and global markets. As consumers tighten their belts, the potential for reduced economic growth becomes evident. The coming months will be critical in determining the trajectory of the U.S. economy and its impact on global trade relations. Policymakers are urged to act swiftly to mitigate potential downturns. Brazil is witnessing massive protests as citizens demand action on pressing social issues and urgent government reforms. The demonstrations, ignited by soaring inflation and widespread dissatisfaction with the administration's policies, have attracted thousands. Protesters are voicing their frustrations over economic inequality and rampant corruption, which have plagued the nation for years. This unrest has roots in long-standing grievances against systemic injustices and political mismanagement. The government has responded with mixed signals, pledging to address some concerns while facing backlash from hardline factions resistant to change. As tensions rise, the international community is closely monitoring the situation, recognizing that Brazil's stability is vital for regional dynamics. Moving forward, constructive dialogue and genuine reform efforts will be essential to address the underlying issues fueling these protests, as citizens seek not just temporary relief, but sustainable solutions for a more equitable future. Taiwan is on high alert as tensions with China escalate dramatically. Recent military exercises by China in the Taiwan Strait have raised significant concerns about a potential invasion, with warplanes and naval vessels increasingly probing Taiwanese airspace and waters. In response, Taiwan's government is enhancing its defense capabilities, including increasing military spending and seeking support from international allies such as the United States. This situation has drawn widespread attention, with many fearing that a miscalculation could lead to an armed conflict that would destabilize the region. Diplomatic channels are being utilized in an effort to de-escalate tensions, but the stakes remain perilously high. The international community is closely monitoring developments, understanding that Taiwan's strategic position is critical for global trade and security. Analysts suggest that the coming weeks may determine not only the dynamics of cross-strait relations, but also the broader geopolitical landscape in Asia, particularly regarding U.S.-China relations. The climate crisis is reaching alarming levels, with recent reports highlighting unprecedented weather events across the globe. Extreme heat waves, flooding, and wildfires have been reported in various regions, prompting urgent calls for action. Scientists warn that if current trends continue, the effects will be catastrophic for both ecosystems and human societies. Governments are facing increasing pressure to implement effective climate policies and reduce carbon emissions. The ongoing discussions at international climate summits are crucial in determining the future course of action. Environmental organizations are advocating for immediate measures to curb greenhouse gas emissions, emphasizing the need for a collective global response. As awareness grows, the conversation around sustainability is becoming more prominent in political agendas. The next steps taken by governments will be critical in addressing this urgent issue. The world must brace for the consequences of inaction and prioritize sustainable practices moving forward. China is intensifying its military presence in the South China Sea, raising alarms among neighboring countries and the United States. Recent naval exercises involving multiple warships and aircraft have been described as a show of strength, with Chinese forces conducting maneuvers in contested waters claimed by Vietnam, the Philippines, and Taiwan. This increase in military activity is perceived as a direct challenge to territorial claims by other nations in the region, particularly amid ongoing disputes over fishing rights and energy resources. Diplomatic tensions are rising, with the U.S. urging for a return to dialogue to prevent misunderstandings that could escalate into conflict. Analysts warn that this situation could lead to significant confrontation if not managed carefully, as regional powers respond with their own military drills. The prospect of miscalculation looms large, emphasizing the need for clear communication. In the coming weeks, the focus will be on whether diplomatic efforts and international mediation can effectively de-escalate these growing tensions and foster stability in this strategically vital area. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has escalated into a severe humanitarian crisis, marked by alarming reports of widespread devastation and mass displacement. Recent airstrikes, part of an intensified military campaign, have led to significant civilian casualties, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Essential infrastructure, including water and electricity supplies, has been severely damaged, leaving families in dire conditions. Humanitarian organizations are urgently calling for immediate assistance, warning that food, medical supplies, and clean water are running perilously low. Hospitals, already overwhelmed, are struggling to provide care to the growing influx of injured individuals, many of whom are women and children. The international community has expressed deep concern, with calls for a ceasefire and unfettered humanitarian access growing louder. As diplomatic efforts to broker a truce continue, progress remains frustratingly slow and uncertain. The plight of civilians trapped in the crossfire is increasingly desperate, as many families find themselves without shelter or basic necessities. In the coming days, decisive action from global leaders will be crucial to alleviate this humanitarian disaster. Global financial markets are currently in turmoil as economic indicators signal a potential recession that could have far-reaching consequences. Stock exchanges around the world have experienced sharp declines, prompting fears of a widespread economic downturn that could affect millions. Analysts attribute these fluctuations to several interrelated factors, including soaring inflation rates, ongoing supply chain disruptions, and rising geopolitical tensions, particularly in Eastern Europe and Asia. As a result, investors are growing increasingly cautious, leading to a significant sell-off of stocks and commodities, which further exacerbates market instability. Central banks are under pressure to take decisive action to stabilize the economy, with some experts advocating for interest rate adjustments to counteract inflation. The uncertainty in the markets has raised serious concerns about the long-term impact on employment rates and consumer confidence, which are vital for economic recovery. As businesses brace for potential fallout, the global economy finds itself at a critical juncture. Monitoring upcoming economic developments and responses from financial institutions will be essential to navigate this crisis effectively. The U.S. Supreme Court has made headlines with several landmark rulings that could reshape American policy. Among the decisions is a ruling on voting rights that could significantly impact future elections across the country. This comes at a time when voting access and election integrity have become highly contentious issues. The court's interpretation of existing laws has been met with both praise and criticism from various political factions. Supporters argue that the rulings will bolster protections for marginalized groups, while critics fear they may undermine the democratic process by restricting access to the ballot. Legal experts are analyzing the implications of these decisions, as they could set precedents for future cases, potentially influencing legislation on both state and federal levels. This unprecedented moment in the judiciary underscores the Supreme Court's critical role in shaping national discourse. As the nation gears up for the upcoming elections, the ramifications of these rulings will resonate with millions of voters. With deep divisions evident in public opinion, the court's actions will likely provoke further legal challenges and political mobilization as citizens advocate for their rights. The upcoming election cycle will be crucial in determining the long-term impact of these rulings. In a significant escalation of hostilities, Russia has launched a new wave of drone and missile attacks on Kyiv, injuring at least 4 civilians. This assault, executed in the early hours, marks one of the most intense bombardments since the beginning of the conflict. Local authorities reported widespread damage, with buildings and infrastructure suffering significant harm. The Ukrainian government has condemned these attacks, vowing to continue its defense against Russian aggression. This latest wave of violence comes amid ongoing tensions that have persisted since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, which has led to a protracted conflict in eastern Ukraine. International reactions have swiftly followed, with NATO expressing solidarity with Ukraine and reaffirming its commitment to collective defense. This ongoing violence highlights the precarious security situation in Eastern Europe, where the threat of further escalation looms large. Experts are concerned that the conflict could spiral out of control, drawing in more nations and leading to a larger regional war. As both sides prepare for continued fighting, the humanitarian impact grows, with civilians caught in the crossfire. Looking ahead, diplomatic efforts must intensify to prevent this conflict from engulfing the wider region and to seek a sustainable resolution. Iran has ramped up its military demonstrations, showcasing an array of advanced weaponry in the capital city of Tehran. This show of force comes amid heightened concerns over regional stability and the potential for conflict with neighboring countries. The Iranian government, faced with crippling economic sanctions and increasing diplomatic isolation, is seeking to project strength not only to its citizens, but also to the international community. Analysts suggest these demonstrations serve as a dual purpose, reinforcing national pride while deterring perceived threats from the West and regional rivals like Israel and Saudi Arabia. The recent display of military might raises alarms among global powers, as the potential for miscalculations could spiral into a broader conflict. Experts warn that the United States and its allies must tread carefully, as aggressive military posturing could provoke an unintended escalation. The impact on global oil markets and trade routes remains a critical concern, with any disruption potentially leading to economic fallout worldwide. Looking ahead, the landscape for diplomatic negotiations is increasingly uncertain, especially as hardline factions within Iran gain influence. The looming question is whether the international community can navigate these tensions effectively. With Iran's military advancements continuously evolving, the urgency for strategic dialogue is more pressing than ever. Thank you for watching. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.